أوكي بلش؟ أوكي. في يوم عادي كانت تشرق به الشمس، 3 أشخاص برضو عاديين وجدوا أنفسهم في سجن ضيق يروون قصصهم على بعض ويروونها لنا، فلنصغي.
مواطن مستهدف،
مواطن مستهدف،
مواطن مستهدف. قصتي بتبدأ في المدرسة ابتدائي، خلصت الحصة لسه المدرس يقرأ اسامي 41 ولد بالصف، الشعار العلم ونور انطفأ على الرف كنت الصح، الاهل يسألوا على السبب ينرد ميزانية فتعلم.
Here today on Dublin's O'Connell Street at a protest organised by the Irish-Palestine Solidarity Campaign. Today we'll be interviewing Martin Quigley, chairperson of the IPSC. Martin, could you tell us what's the protest today in aid of?
Well, we're protesting today because Israel has passed a bill through the Israeli Parliament, the Knesset, that will dislocate and ethnically cleanse 30 to 40,000 Bedouin off their ancestral lands in the Naqab, which is we know it as the Negev Desert in southern Israel. Bedouin have been farming their lands. They were there before the State of Israel was actually formed. They're actually considered Israeli citizens, but they've been moved off their land for people who were involved or maybe remember what happened in apartheid South Africa in the 1960s, 70s and 80s, they've been moved into townships where they will receive minimal health services, minimal public services and their way of life, and they'll lose their way of life, they'll lose their connection to the land. This has been done. It's been done to facilitate really the continued, you could say, ethnic cleansing that happened in 1948. 750,000 Palestinians were ethnically cleansed in 1948. They're scattered all over the Middle East in refugee camps in Lebanon, Syria, Egypt, Jordan. You also had an ethnic cleansing in 1967 as well, another 350,000. Since then, Israel has been slowly ethnically cleansing the West Bank and Palestine itself, and Palestinians within Israel who are restricted to build. So that is a form of ethnically cleansing as well when you restrict the population. But this is the biggest attempt at ethnically cleansing Palestinians since 1967, and it will involve up to maybe 40, 50,000, some say 70,000 people will be driven off their lands into townships where they have no income, and they will be left to rot by the Israeli state. Now, the thing about this, Israel has been doing this since 1948. There has been no sanction. Israel can act with impunity. There has been no sanction whatsoever against Israel. In actual fact, they're rewarded. They're rewarded by a preferential trade agreement with the European Union. They are rewarded with, there's an upgrade, or there are talks on an upgrade for Israel within the European Union in Brussels at the moment, and Israel will be upgraded and have a special status within the European Union. They've been rewarded with special grants to Israeli institutions from the European Union. So there has been no sanction. So the world looks the other way. Even our own government haven't condemned this particular plan. The Irish media haven't even mentioned this particular ethnic cleansing. And this is one of the problems living in this country. What Israel does is off the media limits, if you like. We don't hear what's happening to the Palestinian people, either in the West Bank or within Israel itself. It's a taboo in papers like the Irish Israeli Times. And I'm serious about that, because the Irish Times has an Israeli journalist. So you get the news from Palestine filtered through a Zionist lens, and they don't have any. I mean, you might have Michael Jansen, but you won't have a Palestinian voice expressing or to tell people what is happening to the Palestinian people in Palestine, within Israel as well.
With that in mind, how important then is it for groups like the IPSC to keep active, to keep the voice of the Palestinians within the Irish setting?
Well, it's the thing is because you don't get anything in the media, because RT will have a commentator on, they say, the current peace talks that are taking place just took place recently in Washington, and he was a former Israeli diplomat commenting on it. So you don't have a balanced media. There's a complete lack of any support for human rights for the Palestinians. There's a complete lack of awareness here. So what's important for us is to try and create that awareness, to make Israel accountable. Now, we try and raise awareness, but we also promote boycott divestment sanctions on Israel. Like apartheid South Africa in the 1980s, when we had the people in Dunnes Stores went on strike because of the apartheid regime there, and triggered here. I mean, and the government here actually banned South African produce in the 1980s. So this is what we want people to do. We want people to act. The Israeli civil society have actually asked people, because of the failure of governments, because of the failure of all governments, Western governments, the European Union, and I won't even mention America, because all America does is watch Israel's back all the time. But because of that, because of the failure of governments, the Palestinian people have asked the world to boycott, sanction and divest Israel until they comply with international law, human rights obligations, anti-Geneva conventions, and that's all we're asking. I mean, it's basic human rights.
Martin, just one question about groups within Israel. Would there be progressive movements within Israel giving voice and agreeing with the likes of the IPSC?
Yeah. Oh, you have. I mean, definitely. You have groups like Boycott from Within, which is an Israeli group which are promoting the boycott, which support the boycott. You also have Anarchists Against the Wall, which go to the West Bank and do demonstrations against the wall and support Palestinians in the West Bank. When I went to the West Bank myself in 2008, we went to Berlin. We were on the demonstration in Berlin, and we were, you had the tear gas, all the rest, rubber bullets. But we also, after the demonstration, we went back to a Palestinian house, and there we met some Israelis who had come across from Tel Aviv to support the Palestinians, to stand with the Palestinians, and to try and protect them from the brutality of the Israeli soldiers. So there is support within Israel itself as well.
One final question on our own Foreign Affairs Minister, Eamon Gilmore. What was his reaction been to this, the Prawer Plan?
As far as I'm aware, and Eamon Gilmore hasn't, there's been no government comment on the Prawer Plan, as far as I'm aware. Eamon Gilmore actually, a number of, maybe a year ago, said that he would support a ban on Israeli settlement produce from entering the European Union, but he backtracked on that. So now they're talking about labelling Israeli settlement produce. And I mean, it's all a little too late, you know what I mean? The European Union has issued guidelines about settlement produce, but it's not enough, you know what I mean? It's not enough just to label produce. What you need to do is you need to ban it altogether, just to have any effect on Israel. You have to have some sort of sanction on Israel. The Euromed agreement, the preferential trade agreement with Israel should be stopped. Eamon Gilmore is not in favour of boycotts, he says. He supports diplomacy, which means within the European Union context doing nothing, really, Okay.
Martin, that's great. Thanks a million for your time.
Anyway, take care.
Cheers.
لمنا في مقصر فمسكت حالي قلت يلا عزوا نشتري نلاقي شي صنع بعد ما لقيت اعلان مالوش خاص بجنود رحت على المقابله قالوا لي اسمك قلت محمود قالوا لي غيره ولا شي مقبول قلت لهم مرفوض قالوا لي وانت كمان مرفوض فرجعت على الحاره لقيتها مولعه الكل ماشي في مظاهره سالت ليش قالوا لي بدهم يهدوا بيت الجاره فانضميت هم البوليس حط وجهي بوجه الحيط كل ما بطلع انا بسمع كل ما بطلع انا بسمع انا بسمع يلا اطلع كلام شدك عني لما بطلع انا بسمع لما بطلع انا بسمع انا بسمع يلا اطلع كلام شدك عني من ناحية اقتصادية ما في عنصرية في مساواة نص
لحسابهم والنص التاني على حسابنا. كمان يوم عنا بيبدأ بمظاهرة، كمان يوم مسيرة شموع لسه ضلمة، كمان يوم فيها للشباب، كمان يوم في الشباب. ركز ما في مركز ورا نادي صحة، فيلا رياضة هروب من الشرطة، بطلع ودوكاسة طالع معي مسابقة، بدنا عدالة فرحة بس. كمان يوم بخلص وانا بالمحطة، مش أول مرة ولا آخر مرة، بس آخر مرة طلعت من هنا باعتقال منزلي على شبكة الإنترنت كملت ضالي. كل ما بطلع أنا بسمع، كل ما بطلع أنا بسمع،